Good morning, everyone. I am just so thankful and so happy to be back at ASFPM after a brief respite. Over the last several ASFPM conferences, I have learned so much. In Reno, I learned not to go to the craps table after 1 a.m. And in Oklahoma City, I learned not to eat salmon. But even more, I've learned from all of you. And I think that's one thing I love most about this conference is the fact that it gets to highlight all of the great work that the state and local governments are doing to eliminate flood risk and keep citizens safe. I know it's a tough job to piece together federal programs, work with local governments, work with citizens. It is just a Herculean task. But I want to thank you for all of your hard work. Historically, we've been a country that has been really reactionary to the disaster of the day. And you all know best that the floods we're facing today are more frequent and more extreme. And that means we need to prepare for them a little differently. However, those of us in the mitigation field understand the importance of preventing those disaster losses from happening again in the future. And I think for the first time in a long time, there's a lot of good news, and the tide is turning. At least on the federal level, resilience is now a key issue that most agencies are focused on, and resilience and mitigation are no longer an afterthought. I'm going to talk to you a little bit today about the National Disaster Resilience Competition. Let's just say I've never been so popular as I have when I've come into HUD to be a part of this. Through the NDRC, HUD is putting out nearly $1 billion to make sure communities are well prepared to understand the risks they face. And while $1 billion is a lot of money, every year state, local governments are putting in many times that amount with just normal infrastructure investments, normal housing decisions, and that money can be multiplied in terms of resilience. The NDRC is really a two-phased approach. It's a competition that's asking eligible state and local governments to bring their best design and thinking forward to look at a more resilient disaster recovery. There are 6 main goals to the NDRC. First, we want to fairly allocate the remaining Sandy CDBG-DR funds. Second, we're asking communities to apply a science-based and forward-looking risk analysis. In so many of our hazard mitigation plans that we've put out, it's been looking at historical data, figuring our risk based on past history, but what the NDRC is asking for is for communities and states to pivot and look forward towards that future risk and considering that in your approach. Third, we're looking for state and local communities to leave a legacy of institutionalizing resilience within the communities. This has to be an overall change in how we're thinking about what we're doing at the local and state level. It's not just simply the fund doing what you need to do because the funds are there, but rather changing the way you do things to open up funding opportunities. The fourth thing we're looking to do is provide resources to state and local governments to actually go forward in looking at resilience. The fifth one, which I think is actually most important through this whole process, is how we're engaging our stakeholders, both at the cross-disciplinary level and involving the most vulnerable populations that are often affected by floods in the floodplain. One of the neatest things that I've enjoyed about the National Disaster Resilience Competition to date is the fact that it's been an opportunity for state and local governments to come together and bring agencies that you typically wouldn't involve in disaster resilience. And I think that that's opening up so many more conversations and identifying how we can make transportation systems more resilient, how we can make just every level of community development more resilient, involving economic development sector, involving just a broad range of stakeholders. And sixth is, the sixth goal of the NDRC is really leveraging investments from the philanthropic community. Another really unique part of this whole NDRC is the fact that applicants have had the chance to work with the Rockefeller Foundation through its capacity building initiative. Applicants had a chance to attend regional resilience academies back this past December as well as January of 2015. We had 5 held throughout the nation. And at the academies, applicants were able to bring together a team of approximately 5 to 6 people, and they were able to work with subject matter experts brought in by Rockefeller to help develop an innovative resilience approach. So I know I've already had some questions this week about what's happening with phase one. Applications were due to HUD by this past March 27th. And because of the HUD Reform Act, I can't give out any additional information about when phase one will be announced. However, what I can say is whatever has been publicly identified within all the materials that HUD's published. And if you've seen the HUD NDRC infographic, you're going to note that phase two winners will be announced in June 2015. And I can say that that's looking right on track, so we won't have any issue. And then just finally, in conclusion, I want to make sure that just overall, government is changing how we do business. We've had a much broader dialogue on resilience. Sometimes it's talked about in the right context, sometimes it's not, but the fact that it's being talked about is just a victory in and of itself. Proper planning, innovation, and collaboration is going to shape how communities anticipate and avoid disaster losses in the future. And it's going to change us from a traditional reactionary society to a proactive one, and result building an overall greater community resilience. So I look forward to taking some of your questions later on. Thank you.